Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on Spotlight, many World's Fair structures were dismantled, but some reminders can still be found in the region. Plus, how this art exhibit explores how you find joy and curiosity in your work after you get burned out. And then Mizzou has a new online program to help improve veterinary care in Missouri and beyond. But first, learn about the World's Fair like never before thanks to a new book. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
The 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. It was officially called the Louisiana Purchase Exposition and cost as much to build as the actual Louisiana Purchase cost to buy. It was a 1,200-acre ivory city of immense plaster palaces, breathtaking vistas, and extraordinary exhibits.
You couldn't possibly have seen even a fraction of the fair in one day. You really had to take weeks, months, to be able to see everything.
Though we can no longer visit the fair, we can revisit it in a new book titled Prelude to a Century, the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, written by St. Louis's own Patrick Murphy.
This was the biggest thing that ever happened in St. Louis. Everybody wanted a piece of it.
Throughout its 200 pages, Prelude to a Century is more than just a picture book about a long-ago event. It is a look into the minds of those who dared to dream it, worked to build it, and traveled to see it.
Every generation interprets the importance of the fair in its own way because they're looking at it, through a different lens, a different perspective.
Well, the fact that we're even still talking about it at all must say something.
Yeah, but it was amazing. It was an amazing event. And we're so used to hype in the way, this was the biggest, this is the best. It really was. And it's amazing to see how they put this together. 20 million people came to the fair. It was like 1,300 acres. It extended all the way up to Clayton Road on both sides of Skinker. It was gigantic.
Well, it was so big, apparently, I guess they had a railroad of their own that went around it?
They had one railroad, the intramural railroad, which went all the way around it in both directions. And then they had also little scenic railroads. And to look at a picture of this little railroad going up Skinker, which is a dirt road, and people on horses, you can't drive down Skinker again in your car and see it the same way.
Well, and also right in that spot there around Skinker, Oakland, I think there was the world's largest hotel at the time.
It was gigantic. It was called the Inside Inn, and sort of up near Clayton Road. And thousands of people, included the charge of admission for like $3.50 a night. But multiply all the prices by like 30, because that's the difference in inflation. So getting in for 50 cents sounds pretty good till you realize that it's actually a $15 ticket to get in.
Nothing about it was really at human scale.
No.
It was gigantic, like palaces.
Yeah. And that was the idea. David Francis and his friends, they were a little ticked off that they didn't get the Chicago Fair in 1893. It was still the same Cubs, Cardinals, Chicago, St. Louis thing even back then. And they wanted to get it for originally 1903, and then they pushed it back a year to 1904. But they needed to do something bigger than Chicago and better than Chicago. They wanted to do absolutely the biggest and best World's Fair that had ever been done. And the name of the book is Prelude to a Century. So one of the things that I wanted to do was get into the heads of people back then. Like, what did they think when they went to the fair? We think it's all kind of quaint and it was amazing and big, but we weren't amazed by telegraph machines or flying machines or automobiles or anything. But people back then in St. Louis, your typical person might have been an immigrant, might have come over from another country, lived in a cold water flat, lit by gas, traveled by trolley. It was a tough world back in St. Louis in 1904. So, when they go to the fair, they were just completely blown away. But then they came back home, to gaslight and wooden stoves and all of that. So it was it gave people a glimpse of what this new century was going to be like. And they got it kind of right, and they got it a lot wrong, too.
To find out about the bizarre ideas and inventions that people came up with for the fair, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. Despite the majority of structures being dismantled after the 1904 World's Fair, traces of its legacy persist throughout St. Louis. From iconic landmarks in Forest Park to notable structures on the campus of Washington University, remnants can even be found in homes across the region. Public historian Adam Kloppe highlights the far-reaching impact of the fair.
After the World's Fair ended on December 1st, 1904, the process of dismantling the fair began. Most of the fair's 1,500 structures were designed to be temporary, and in the months after the fair's closure, a wrecking company was brought in to tear down everything from the grand palaces to the attractions on the pike. After they were done, the fair was gone. When St. Louisans today look back at photographs of the fair, it can be hard to place exactly where those images were taken. It seems like some other place, like something out of a dream. However, you can still find the World's Fair in St. Louis if you know where to look. The first place to go if you're looking for the fair would be Forest Park. Within the park itself, you can find two structures that haven't moved since the fair. The first is the St. Louis Art Museum. It served as the Palace of Fine Art at the fair, and was the only palace that was meant to be a permanent structure. The other building that remains in the park is the flight cage at the zoo. Originally erected by the Smithsonian, the flight cage was meant to be dismantled after the fair and rebuilt elsewhere. But St. Louisans liked the flight cage so much that they purchased it and then built a world-class zoo around it. In addition to this, several of the older structures on the campus of Washington University, like Brookings Hall, were used as a part of the fair. As the fair was being planned and built, Washington University was in the process of moving from downtown St. Louis to what is today known as the Danforth campus. In order to help pay for the construction of this new campus, the original buildings were leased to the fair. After the fair was over, the buildings were given back to Washington University. The school moved to the campus in 1905. But it's not just these landmark structures that are still standing from the fair. Throughout the metro area, you can find homes that were used as a part of the fair. For example, there's a house in Webster Groves that was originally constructed as part of a display for the American Radiator Company to show off their wares at the fair. After the fair was over, someone bought the model home from them and rebuilt it. Homes like this dot the St. Louis landscape and beyond. You can find structures from the fair that were rebuilt in Kansas, Indiana, and Oklahoma. And depending on how old your house is, you may also be living with parts of the fair every day. As the palaces of the fairgrounds were being demolished, salvage crews sold lumber, nails, doors, and other pieces of the fair to builders and construction companies. They used those materials to build new houses, offices, churches, and stores, not just in St. Louis, but around the country. A little piece of the fair might be living in your house today, even if you don't know it.
Next week on History Spotlight, the St. Louis connection to Cinco de Mayo.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
I'm Misa Jeffries. I'm Associate Curator at the Contemporary Art Museum, St. Louis, and this is an exhibition called Paul Chan Breathers. This is a 15-year survey of work by Paul Chan, who's an artist, writer, and publisher. And it takes as its starting point a really important moment in 2009 when Chan was at the height of his career, internationally recognized for the work he was making in video. But he said at the time he reached peak screen, or what we may call screen fatigue, and decided to stop making art for the moment and stop making video altogether. And so the exhibition looks at that break or that breather and his turn toward experimental publishing and the founding of his press Badlands Unlimited, as well as his gradual return back to art making through sculptures that push the boundaries of what is expected of the moving image. I think the exhibition poses some important questions around burnout and exhaustion, questions such as how do you find joy and curiosity in your work again? What does it mean to step away from the usual ways of doing things and try something new? And so the exhibition addresses these concerns, and we can really see how Chan is making work that's radically different than he ever had before. So on view are several series of works, including artworks and books related to Badlands Unlimited. Really at the centerpiece of the Badlands Unlimited display is a large-scale installation that resembles the 99-cent store where Badlands Unlimited operated out of in the Lower East Side of Manhattan up until 2019. There's also a series of works called the Arguments and the Non-Projections, and both of these explore the possibilities of the moving image beyond the screen. So we see the equipment of video projection, so electrical cords plugged into different surfaces like cement-filled shoes and cardboard boxes and electrical outlets, and there's current flowing through the cords, yet they're not really powering anything. And the idea was to use the materials of video, but to really think about what their ultimate purpose is. In 2015, Chan began a series of works called the Breathers, which are billowing fabric bodies powered by industrial fans, and they are inspired by the Greek concept of pneuma, signifying breath or spirit, and Chan actually refers to them as clothing for spirits or animated by breath. Chan considers them to be both sculptures and moving images in a way, because each breather has a defined choreography, a kind of set of repeated movements that for him almost functions like a video loop. The resulting artworks are incredibly dynamic, animated, full of life, full of color, very enticing to look at, but with a lot of references and deeper content, thinking about Greek mythology, rhetoric, politics, philosophy, and our current climate as well.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media.
Sounds good.
Jamie Ottinger shows just how uplifting and rewarding it is to be a registered veterinary technician. Jamie was in general practice for 5 years before she knew something had to change.
Kind of at a point where I wanted to know what was next.
That's about the time many vet techs leave practice, according to the University of Missouri College of Veterinary Medicine. On average, there seems to be burnout after 5 years, or no advancement with more money.
There's not really a way to move up, and therefore we actually have a very high turnover rate in the profession of veterinary technology, because right now the average is only about 5 years.
In Jamie's case, she wanted more.
Okay, what's next for me? Like, what else can I do with this career choice?
So she discovered something new at MU in the College of Veterinary Medicine.
I learned more about radiography and dentistry and like how to read the radiographs. Toxicology, we would see a lot of animals come in that have ingested things that they shouldn't have. So we kind of know what to look out for symptom-wise.
Jamie learned all of this and more through the Bachelor of Science in Veterinary Technology program, an online program for vet techs with an associate's degree. The BSVT program is an online bachelor's completion degree for vet techs anywhere, in-state or out. Jamie had her associate's degree, so this seemed like the perfect next step.
We also do what's called intradermal allergy testing. It's kind of like allergy testing in humans.
Bachelor's completion degree connects a lot of the dots as far as the why behind the how. It goes back and goes into more depth. And it also includes a lot of the soft skills, leadership, communication, ethics, business, and practice management, so that we're filling in a lot of those gaps for these veterinary technicians that do want advanced education to become leaders in their field and in their practices.
There are some 4-year bachelor degree programs in the U.S., but credits don't always transfer. That's why the online program is different. There are only 3 bachelor's completion programs nationwide, and Mizzou is the only one at a College of Veterinary Medicine.
So we get to actually use all of these assets of the experts in the field and use them to create a really amazing curriculum for our students to be able to advance their education and widen their knowledge base.
The continued education and degree helps technicians like Jamie transition into specialty medicine.
The Missouri Veterinary Dermatology Center.
She's putting her degree to practice in Wentzville.
We have veterinary students that come here. I get to help the veterinary students kind of help read cytologies. So we're looking under the microscope to look for any kind of infection or inflammation, things like that, anything abnormal.
Jamie is one of 2 students to become the program's very first to graduate with this new Bachelor of Science degree.
It's very exciting, yes. With veterinary medicine expanding even more, it's changing every single day. Same with human medicine too. Technology is changing every day. So I really hope having a higher education and giving our animals the best care, I feel like that would be really beneficial with this program. And I'm excited to see where it goes too.
Since her graduation, Jamie couldn't imagine a better outcome.
I didn't realize I would like dermatology as much as I do. So it's really interesting. It's a lot more in depth than I expected it to be. And I feel like my degree did help me in that aspect.
Later on Spotlight, a former rock and roll roadie builds a huge structure in Chesterfield. Find out what it's for.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Siegelmoss, and I'm a ceramics artist here in St. Louis, Missouri. So for the last 20 years before COVID, I was a professional musician with the Bottoms Up Blues Gang here in St. Louis, and we toured all over and played music. But before that, I did a lot of ceramics in Washington State where I lived, and then even before that, my mom exposed me to ceramics at the Craft Alliance way back in the 80s. And then when COVID hit, I just turned off music and turned on ceramics. I find that ceramics and music have a lot in common, and so I like them both because it's really very much about process and not the end game. You know, when you're a live musician, you play a song and it's just gone. So you have to really enjoy that process. It's not something you can hold on to. And it's the same way with ceramics, you know. It's a long process to make pieces, like 2 or 3 weeks sometimes. And sometimes you do everything right and it still turns out wrong. Or you do everything wrong and then it turns out right. So for me, I really enjoy the process of continually making art. I like art that you use every day, whether it's music in the car or whether it's dishes that you put your coffee in or your cereal or whatnot. And so my process is really about finding ways to incorporate art into people's life, moment to moment. The process of making one piece is multifaceted and takes several weeks, right? So the clay comes in, so I'll weigh those out, roll them out into little balls, and then throw them. You wait several days for them to dry, and then you trim them, which is you're taking all the excess clay off the outside of the bowl. And then you have to wait several more days for it to dry all the way. And then we throw it in the kiln for 2-3 days to bisque, and that turns it from clay into stone. And then we come back and we glaze it and put it back into the kiln for another 2 to 3 days. We take it out after it cools and it goes straight to its forever home. What I hope about all the art that I make is that we can help make each other's day better. We live in this mass consumption world where you can buy the same looking bowls that I make at a Crate and Barrel for $5 and it doesn't give anything back. You know, it'll look nice on your shelf or whatnot, but these handmade goods are a form of like activism almost. You know, we want people to interact with music that isn't canned. We want to, you know, see live music where the mistakes are the things that we remember. You know, some of my favorite pieces are like the ones that are cracked or the ones that have bubbled up or something. And so that kind of like constant interaction with life, not consumption, is what I'm after with art, you know, music or ceramics or friendships, you know. That's what I'm hoping people get out of this.
Hi, I am Norman Spencer. I'm a printmaker working in St. Louis. I like to make woodcuts and lino cuts based on nature and architecture. I like to make prints based on what attracts me to life, such as like birds. I'm an avid bird watcher. I love collecting plants and I love architecture. I've always been inspired by the lines in different forms of architecture, and I love taking a walk through different neighborhoods and seeing the different types of homes that they have. I think what draws people in most to my work is the use of color, as well as the subject matter itself. It tends to pop out and stand out in an art market as far as the medium and the colors that I use. I'm a printmaker working mostly with block printing, so linoleum and woodcuts. The way that I create my work is through the reduction method. So I'll start off with one block, and I'll add color to the paper, and as I add color, I'll take it away from the block so that all that's left, usually at the end on the block, is the final color that I use. What's always drawn me to the process is the hands-on nature of it. It's a very meditative practice. You can get lost in the carving process of it, and just hours pass by and you come back and you have this great piece that you can print. Each printmaker has their own different style. You know, everyone's approach to the block is a little bit different. I think that my subject matter and the way that I approach it is what's different. Two people may do a house, but it's not going to be the same. I hope to see you at the art fair, where I can tell you more about my work and you can see it for yourself. Just look for the tent. It's Cloud Hotel Prints.
Meet the artists in person at the Laumeier Sculpture Park Annual Art Fair, May 10th through the 12th. Visit laumeiersculpturepark.org for more info. You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
Not only a roadie, but somehow fell into some luck, and now I'm running this thing. I'm Trey Kerr, CEO of Gateway Studios and Production Services, and welcome to Gateway Studios.
You may have driven by it, or even flown over, and wondered, what the heck is that? This 340,000 square foot cement structure, tucked in Chesterfield Valley outside St. Louis, is the music industry's future. Soon these walls will be rocking the sounds of the world's biggest names in music.
Anyone from Fish to Hall & Oates to Green Sky Bluegrass. What we're trying to do is reestablish the music industry here in St. Louis. The centralization of St. Louis was key to that. Right now we're walking into the entrance of Studio 80, which is our biggest studio, which is the size of an NFL football field. This is the workhorse. This is what people are coming to use, and this is what the biggest rehearsal facility in the country.
It's going to be called the Eras Tour.
You could see a Taylor Swift in here easily. You could see a AC/DC, Billy Joel, whoever's in the stadium tour cycle at that year. This would be a facility that they could come and utilize and use. We've designed and built this building for all artists across the music industry, and I mean this building is built and designed by production people for production people. It's here to accommodate artists from theaters to arenas to amphitheaters to stadium shows. It's here for them to tech, rehearse, produce, fine-tune, get things ready before artists go out on the road. Since I was a kid, I wanted to work in the music industry and be in the music industry, and never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be in a position where I'm running a company that's involved in some of the biggest tours in the world. When I was 18, I was looking around and I'm sitting around backstage and I'm going, this is what I want to do when I grow up.
When I jumped off, I had a bucket full of dots.
That was 22 years ago, backstage with the band Fish. A St. Louis kid who went to Chaminade and CBC, Trey was a huge fan. Following the band around the country, he went on tour with Fish, working the band's nonprofit. Several years later, he enrolled in an LA film school, eventually landing at a video production company. That gig opened the door to a whole new world, the world of a roadie.
Oh, there's another Drake. I forgot I did a whole lot of Drake. I believe I was his video engineer, if I'm not mistaken. You take a year, I'd have 15 different jobs that I did in 1 year, and it wasn't necessarily one thing. I'd be a merch guy on this tour, a video guy on this tour, a tour manager on this tour, and a backline tech on this tour, right? It just varied. You pick up work where you get work, and when you're not working, you're on vacation, and when you're on vacation, you're looking for your next meal. GD50, Grateful Dead's 50th anniversary at Soldier Field. So GD50, I ran the camera in the pit. And when they got acquired, I was working for them and then still going out and doing massive world tours, whether that was Maroon 5 or Drake or, you know, Fish or countless others. Maroon 5, there you go. For me, Maroon 5 was like the end of the last tour I ever did before I started my own stuff. So loaded into inventory. Nice work. I was at a position in my life where I needed to make the next step forward and you know, basically jump off the cliff. And, you know, I went and made a business plan, and I built my first company, which was 201 Productions. They're working on Earth, Wind, and Fire.
That EDM show.
There you go.
That company is now part of Gateway Studios and the backbone of its future. A future that is banking on Missouri tax incentives to draw artists to do business here in the Show Me State.
Artists generate revenue from concerts now, not from record sales and album sales. There are these mini economies that are running around the country. And what we're trying to do is obviously get a piece of that pie here in Missouri.
And then Mama took me to ground.
After all, music is in the DNA of St. Louis. Through the years, a venue for blues, jazz, bluegrass, and even rock and roll. But not anymore. Gateway Studios and its Roadie CEO are hoping to change all that.
This is a company that was built by roadies, for roadies.
How we doing? Is the doors into the courtyard open? Yeah. All right, cool.
If I had listened to some of the people that were giving me advice back then and telling me to get off my butt and get a real job, I don't know where the hell I'd be. Dumb luck is all I've ever had. And, you know, if I changed anything, who knows? That could alter, you know, the butterfly effect. That could alter the whole pathway. And you know, I'm working at Burger King right now. I don't know.
Where does this CEO and now father of two see Gateway Studios in 10 years?
I hope it's on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine and they're saying it's, you know, this is the greatest place to start your tour, and you know, this is the place where innovation and ideas come together to make rock and roll history.
Next week, Happy Hooves Equine Rescue, how they help future horse owners and why they teach more than just how to ride a horse. Plus, how St. Louis celebrates Cinco de Mayo. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.